Thank you, X-Men Origins Wolverine, for being so bad that you ended up being responsible for a good movie 15 years later. How do I know that Deadpool Wolverine is good? I don't! I wrote this shit months ago. I have no idea if it's gonna be good or not, but it's gonna be good, right? It has to be good. So what if they brought back Hugh Jackman's Wolverine after such a poignant and beautiful send-off? They must have a good reason to bring him back, right? It's not just for a cash grab, surely not. There's no way. Right? I mean, it'd be really fucking embarrassing for Reynolds and Jackman to bring Logan back just for the movie to end up being bad. That'd really piss me off, but it's not gonna be bad. It's not. And yeah, sure, Deadpool Wolverine was also filmed during a writer's strike, but guess what? So was Batman 89, and so was Chucky, Child's Play. There stands a chance of it still being good.
Right? Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, Sean Levy, I swear to fucking God, this movie better be good, or else this movie's gonna age worse than a pre-packaged salad, and I would've made this video for fucking nothing!
Okay, so yeah, I said all those things, I've seen the movie twice now. Once on opening night, and then a few days ago. So, does Deadpool Wolverine stick the landing? Yeah. Let's fucking go! They did it! They fucking did it! Let's fucking go! They fucking did it! I told you motherfuckers to do it! I fucking told you! Doesn't mean it's a good movie though.
Peter, my man, you see all that? Yeah, that was fun! Yeah, it was okay.
Spoiler alert, by the way, I'm not gonna shy away from talking about stuff in this movie. I'm spoiling everything, so go watch it, come back here. Go watch my other video, by the way, if you haven't seen it already. It's pretty good. I spent a lot of time on it, so you should probably check it out. Then come back here and we'll talk about it. Right, okay, so where do we start here? So if we're really gonna talk in depth about this, I suggest we start from like, you know, the biggest problem this movie has. It's the script. So if you recall my last video, you probably remember me saying that this film was made during a writer's strike, which it was, and it's very obvious. You can tell. Now, for a film made during the writer's strike, it could have been so much worse. There are a lot of good ideas and scenes and character stuff that I really like that could have been so much better if you just took the time to, you know, develop it some more, write some more. Or, and hear me out, this is something else you could have done. You could have paid your fucking writers! So the main premise of this story is that Deadpool needs to find a Wolverine to help him save his world from being pruned by the TVA. The plot is super simple. It's not that complex. It's not hard to follow at all. But, so you see, when a film has a very simple plot, like that's very easy to follow, I expect that you're not gonna spend too much time on the plot and more time with the characters, developing them, you know, getting to know them better. And yes, this movie does do that. But it was done better in previous Marvel movies though. All right, let me explain for a second here. Okay, so Logan in this movie pretty much has the same character arc that he had in 2017's Logan. He's washed up, he feels guilty for the deaths of, like, you know, all his friends and the X-Men and stuff like that, and like he's just been depressed and yada yada yada, right? And when he finds Laura, she helps bring his heroism out so he can perform one last true act of heroism and save the people that matter to him the most. That's great. Also, side tangent, this movie does not, you know, at all remove any emotional weight from Logan itself. I watched that a few days ago. It still hits hard, right? It's still a beautiful, wonderful movie and a beautiful, poignant send-off to this version of the character and Hugh Jackman's tenure as this character for like 17 years. And yes, while him coming back for Deadpool Wolverine in future Marvel movies does take away a little bit of the weight of, like, you know, that final performance, it doesn't detract from how brilliant that performance is, how brilliant that movie is, and how emotionally devastating it is too. The thing is though, if you're gonna bring Hugh Jackman back as Logan, why would you make him go through the same thing he went in his last movie? What, like, that doesn't make much sense to me. Okay, like, I get the meta narrative, right? This version of Wolverine let down his entire world and, like, let all of his friends die, and like now he just spends his time washed up in a bar drinking all the time, right? I get what they're trying to say. A lot of like this movie is just a metaphor for how the Fox Marvel movies have just kind of turned out these last few years. After Hugh Jackman left the franchise, Deadpool was really the only thing like keeping this universe together. The X-Men movies had no idea what they wanted to be. They had no like real identity because their main player, the main character of this franchise the last 24 years is gone. And because of that, there's nothing really tying this franchise down together. Without Hugh Jackman, the studio execs have no idea what to make of this franchise. So I understand bringing him back and putting him through this character arc makes sense, and if you look deep enough, it can be applied to like the real world, right? I understand that. But if you're gonna do that, make it more interesting at the very least. And that's not to say that Hugh Jackman is phoning it in or is bad in this movie. Absolutely not. He is fantastic. Hugh Jackman will never turn in a bad Wolverine performance. I refuse to believe he will, because every time, even in the worst movies he's in, he just brings it his all no matter what, and I fucking respect that. He just slips into that character like a snug glove, right? It's like no time has passed at all, and seeing how happy he was to be back in that beautiful suit makes it worth it to me. It's not completely justified to bring him back, but it's so abundantly clear that this is a movie that Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman wanted to make so bad. And I'm never gonna shit on people who just want to make a fun movie just to have fun for themselves. Art is subjective. It can mean anything you want it to mean. And for them, it's just making a buddy cop movie. And they had so much fun doing it. And really, I can't get mad at that. But again, that doesn't really excuse, you know, the downfalls of this movie. So I initially described this movie as half-baked, right? As in there are a lot of good ideas that are in this story that just aren't developed to its fullest to make this story great. Like the cameos. I really like the idea of bringing back old Marvel characters from movies way back then and giving them some closure, you know, a proper send-off, right? Because a lot of them didn't even get a chance to really prove themselves. Seeing Chris Evans as Johnny Storm was really a delight. I saw it coming. I couldn't not, because, you know, I know these movies, but it just also felt so refreshing to see Chris Evans play an asshole again. He's so good at playing those kinds of characters, and he's in it for just the right amount of time before he gets, you know, skinned alive. Jennifer Garner as Elektra, Wesley Snipes as Blade, and Channing fucking Tatum as Gambit were all incredible. Channing Tatum especially just absolutely blew my socks off in the theater. And you just think, not a lot of people are gonna know like why he's in this movie to begin with, but like for people like me who are into these kinds of movies, who have niche information stored in the back of my gooey little brain about movies that never came out, this cameo meant a lot to me. It felt really special. It felt really nice. And like, oh my God, every time he opened his mouth, comedic gold. I bust a nut every time words shot out of his mouth. Seeing Wesley Snipes as Blade come back is just genuinely insane. And then there's Daphne Keane as X-23, which would have been a great surprise in the theater, but the trailer spoiled it for me, so, you know, it was fine. She was fine. As fun as these cameos are, and as much they do serve a purpose ultimately, it still feels like there could have been more to it, you know? They're there for like 10 minutes, and then they're just gone. I just feel like they could have done more and actually developed these characters and given them more to do. Speaking of characters, I don't understand why we don't have the supporting cast as much in this movie. I know that it's called Deadpool and Wolverine, and you want to make room for Wolverine, but those side characters like Colossus, Negasonic Teenage Warhead, Yukio, Dopinder, all of them, it just feels like they're missing from this. Like, they're a core part of those first two movies, and they just don't get much play here. Also, why didn't Domino and Cable come back for this? I don't understand. They were like such good characters in the second movie. What happened to them? I would have liked to see them come back. Deadpool puts a huge emphasis that he's saving his world for these people specifically. But like in the movie, I don't feel any stakes. I don't feel any tension. I don't feel like any of them are in danger. They're absent for a good chunk of it. They only show up in the very beginning and the very end. So like when this whole world-ending threat is like looming on us, I don't feel any tension at all because I forget they're even there. Okay, let's talk about the villains of this movie. Also, pretty half-baked. As I was watching it, the way it was turning out, I had a feeling that Emma Corrin's character, Cassandra Nova, is more of a side villain just for the Void, and that Paradox, played by Matthew McFadden, was like the real big bad. The entire movie, Cassandra Nova is saying, oh, I'm happy here. I can just stay here the entire time. I don't really want to go up to the surface world. It's fine. And she threatens to kill Deadpool Wolverine a bunch of times, yada, yada, yada. But they earn her trust, and like she's like, okay, I'll let you go back to the surface world now, whatever. And I assumed when they got back to their world, Matthew McFadden would be like, oh, you think you can come back from the Void? No, you can't. I'm still gonna destroy your world and send you all back to the Void. I thought that's how it was gonna play out. But then Cassandra Nova does a 180 and just threatens to kill the entire multiverse and make the Void the only, you know, ruling world or whatever. Like, where the fuck did that come from? And because of that, like, she just ends up doing nothing for the last like 10 minutes of the movie. Like, she just stands in one spot for like 20 minutes, not saying a word, and just like, you know, feeling the power of like the MacGuffin or whatever. I don't understand why you didn't have just like Matthew McFadden do this. I don't get it. Again, I love their performances. I love how prim and proper and like prissy Matthew McFadden was as Paradox. And I just loved how sassy and playful Emma Corrin was as Cassandra Nova. They played their characters very well, but their endings were just very lackluster and just didn't really, you know, feel earned. You know what else is half-baked? The action. So about half the action in this movie is either really good or just okay. So there's the opening credit action sequence, which is Deadpool dancing to Bye 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 while killing all the TVA agents. That scene is just perfect. Then we have the first Wolverine and Deadpool fight, which is pretty good. I liked it. And then there's a second Deadpool Wolverine fight where they're fucking each other up in the van. That was just mwah, perfect. Loved that scene. Then there's the fight at Cassandra Nova's base with all like, you know, the other recruited Marvel characters. That was like the worst fight in the entire movie. You can barely tell what's going on. I don't think Elektra even had a moment in that scene. Like Blade and Gambit had their own little moments, like, you know, to shine. Elektra was just there, and X-23 didn't get much to do either. And then there's the final battle with like, you know, Deadpool Wolverine versus the Deadpool Corps, which in theory is really cool, but in execution, it comes off unfocused and kind of bland. It's filmed in one take, and it's very much in the same vein as like, you know, that Old Boy fight sequence and the Daredevil fight sequence. But what makes those fight scenes exciting and engaging and like, you know, riveting is that we have one character to follow as they fight through an entire horde of like bad guys, right? In this movie, we have two. But the problem is, I don't know who to look at most of the time. I keep going back and forth between Deadpool and Wolverine, and I feel like I'm missing a bunch of the fight, and it feels just like, you know, unfocused and just hard to keep up with at times. Like, there's a lot of cool moments within that sequence itself, but overall, it just felt very messy. It's not even badly choreographed. Again, it's purely a focus issue where I don't know where to look at any given point. These issues kind of like culminates into like, you know, I think my other biggest problem with this movie, that being Sean Levy. I'm never gonna shit on a filmmaker for like, you know, just making movies. Even if they're bad movies, they're living my dream. They get to make movies. The problem is though, Sean Levy has zero fucking sauce. This man has no style, no like, you know, voice. It just feels, he's that kind of director that is there just for the studio to mold and make them do whatever they want him to do. And Sean Levy will tell you this himself. He does not want to make movies for like, you know, the cool edgy kids in the back of the room. He wants to make movies that are crowd-pleasing, populist entertainment. That's what he said. And here's the thing, there's nothing wrong with making, you know, crowd-pleasing entertaining movies. There's nothing wrong with that. But like, God, man, make it like, you know, interesting at the very least. Compare the style of this movie to the first Deadpool movies, it's night and day. This movie had a budget of $200 million. I can see where some of it went, but the rest of it, I'm just assuming it went to all the, like, getting all the actors involved. If you gave me $200 million to make my own Deadpool series, I'd go fucking nuts with it, bro. And look, I know it sounds like I hate this movie and I don't like it at all, and like I have been bashing it the last like 10 minutes, but I still like this movie a lot. I went to see this movie twice, right? The first time I watched it, I had a grin from ear to ear. I was cheesing from the start of this movie to the very end. But when I left the theater, I didn't feel anything. I had fun, but like I felt empty on the inside. I didn't get much out of it. I didn't feel anything other than just entertainment. It got me thinking, wait, is this a bad movie? And my love for these characters are just like blinding me to the fact that this is a very flawed and bad movie, and I couldn't tell until I watched it a second time. After listening to people complain about it and all their criticisms and everything I felt about it, I went in the second time, and I still had an absolute blast from start to end. And that's when it really clicked for me. Remember a few years ago when Martin Scorsese said Marvel movies are theme park rides? This is what he's talking about. Deadpool Wolverine is the epitome of roller coaster entertainment. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Theme park rides are fun. They're a good time. They give you a nice little jolt of, like, you know, exhilaration and adrenaline, but they don't offer you much in terms of, like, you know, emotion or any depth. And that's okay. I came into this movie with a pure intention of having a good time. And I did. And I know for a fact, when I watch it again in the future, I'm still gonna have a good time. Will this hold up on a rewatch in a few years? I'm not sure. Honestly, I don't know. This movie isn't trying to be anything else other than pure entertainment, and it succeeds at that. But at the same time, it's just half-baked entertainment. Yeah, so that's all I have to say. Go check out my video that I posted a few days ago. Really proud of it. It's a good one. It's a good video. It's a good video. Check it out. Go watch Deadpool Wolverine and form your own opinion. And yeah, bye.